have these recordings. So if you feel like you've missed something today, rest assured you'll have a recording to go back to if you want to take a look at the training at a later time. Also, if you do have questions, since we do have such a large group, you can either unmute yourself or you can post the question in chat, and we can, as we're going through the training, we'll address the questions throughout the training that way. If you do have any issues logging in to contribute for the first time or any questions, the workflow would be to contact the state of Maine ESCB's team, just like you always have for issues in the past, and they will work with us to get those resolved as soon as possible. And at the end of the training, we're going to provide you the URL to this contributor application. So that way you can get the URL from the training in the chat and be able to log in immediately. So this is up and running for you to use effective today. At this time, I want to turn it over to Maria. Maria, did you have anything that you wanted to tell the team before we get started?
Good morning. This is Maria Jakes. I'm director of the ESCB, and thank you all for joining us today. And I hope you find this training useful. And if you have any questions, my staff is always available to help you. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Maria. Now, this contributor application that we're introducing you today will be replacing a GeoLinks change request system that most of you are currently using. Just to get started, just so you know, what you've got in change request is not going to port over into contributor. So whatever you put into contributor, this part will be just starting new. The main team will resolve and work through what you've got in the change request system to date, but you can use contributor starting today. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Jessica Byerman.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen here, and this is our log on for contributor. And like Christy said, I'll share the URL toward the end of the training in the chat so that you can get logged in right away. But what you'll do is once you click on that link, you need your account is set up with your email address. You'd want to hit the forgot password button, and this will send you an email with a link that you can click on to set up your password initially. If that doesn't, if you don't receive the email, check your spam folder. And if you do have issues, then reach out to the state of Maine, please. And maybe there's, something wasn't right with the email address or it's outdated and we need to get that fixed. So yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out if you don't receive the password reset email. So I'm going to log in here. And what it does is it goes through an authentication process. So it'll just spin for a second, and then it'll bring up our map focused in on the state of Maine. And I'll start by just going through the different tools in the interface here. So when you look over at the top left side, we have plus and minus buttons, and this is to zoom in and out. In addition to that, you could use your scroll wheel on your mouse. So wherever you center your cursor, that's the location that you'll zoom in on for scrolling in and out. And then the home button right below the plus and minus buttons, that gets you just back to the full state area. We also have a search option here, and this is where you can start typing in addresses. So if your computer is set up this to allow using the location, you can hit the use current location button. It'll get you to approximately where you're at. But let's say you just of an existing address in the area where you need to add new addresses or a new road, you can just type that in. You'll see on the top, it shows ESCB address locator. So that means it's using the data, so the roads and the address points that are in the state's data set right now. Scrolling further down, it's using this world geocoding, which is for the full world, any place that you can search to, that's going to be as a backup. So the initial checks and the predictive text that comes in is from this address locator. So if you wait a second after typing in a number, or start typing in, an address like this, it'll come up with all the options, and then you just click on that, whichever choice you want to have. And then it zooms in automatically to that location and gives you the search result. So it found a 100% match. That's the score, and gives you this information about the address. You can then close that. It did use the road. There was no point right there. So that's one of the ways to search. And then if you are working on something, maybe it's a larger area, you have a lot of houses to add, or address points for new houses to add, or more roads, and you need to get back to it the next day when you have time again, you can set up bookmarks, and these are for you. So they don't get shared across accounts. It's just your account and your device that you're logged in on. And that is right underneath this home button here. If you click on bookmarks, I have one that I had added, just a random one, but if I add another one, it's just whatever's on the screen right in this area that you're zoomed in on. And you can give it a name, hit add, and it's available on here. And if we close this or collapse it, it hides that area. Let's click on the home button to get back to, where you would end up probably when you log back in the next day. If you have to get back to work in this area, all you have to do is click on the bookmarks button. Click on the bookmark that you're interested in, and it brings you back to that location. And you are able to edit these bookmarks. So either you can rename them if you'd like, or you can change the area that you're covering. Let's say you wanted to zoom out a little bit or in a little bit more, you can do that and then hit save, or you can delete the bookmark too. So that's everything over on our left-hand side here. On the right-hand side, yep.
We
Was there a
do
question?
have a question. Yep.
Okay.
Does this application work with any web browser?
It's recommended to use Google Chrome. That's the one it's been tested with. So it might work with Edge too, but you might run into some issues. So we'd recommend Chrome. And then I see the second question, how often is the map imaging updated? So right now, this is a default background that the company Esri provides, but we do have the option to now configure it to use the state of Maine's aerial imagery, and we're going to be working on that. So pretty soon you'll see that updated. And I believe what John Bryce said yesterday is that's flown once a year. So that's how often it'll get updated. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, we have a number of tools on the top. When it's a lighter blue color like this and down a bit, that means that's active. So by default, it's our aerial imagery that's active. So if I click on this, it'll turn the imagery off. And the second button gives us a number of base maps that you can choose from. So if for some reason you wanted to maybe see some other information and not the aerial imagery for a certain location, you can click on these other options in here. There's this imagery with labels. So that's that same imagery we had, but it introduces some default labels. It would have road labels too, but these are covered up by the state's data set. Okay, so if we just go back to our default one, that's just this imagery here. The next button over is our legend or list of layers. So it shows you what's in the map, and then also what's currently showing up. So like down here, the gray one, building footprints, it's unchecked by default. So if you wanted to see those, you have to check it, but it also has to change from this grayed out version to the darker blue version, and then it'll show up. So you have to be zoomed in closer like this. And then if that area has building footprints, they would start showing up in this at this level, because now it's no longer grayed out. Same with the emergency service zones. If you want to see that information, it's by default, it's off, but you can turn them on. And now, if I zoom out with the scroll wheel a bit, then at some point, address points are still showing up. But now that I've gone out this far, the addresses are no longer showing. And that's when it's grayed out like this. That's indicating that you're not at the level where those are turned on. Same with the driveways. And if you click on these plus buttons, it just shows you what the symbology looks like for this area. So this one would be white. And you can either click the X button to get out of here, or you can just click on the tool itself again, and it'll deactivate the tool. So then over on the next button is our edit button. So this is where you activate change requests and feedback options. We're going to skip over that for now because we'll get into more detail with that. It's the button to the right of that is a question mark, and that's for help information. So if you click on that, it opens a separate window with a PDF with table of contents on the third page. And it gives you more information about all the things that we're going through right now. Like how do you add features, bookmarks, how do you identify or get information about existing features in here and how the grid works, which I'll go over yet. That's at the bottom. So that can always be accessed. It always opens a separate window in a separate window. Okay, and then our last button is our account button. If you click on this, you can choose to then log out when you're done working for the day. Okay. So then going back to this edit button here, it's a little piece of paper with a pencil in it. That gives you the option to add feedback, which are just simple points. And then they're also requesting a new feature. Or if we're in a location and don't need to, instead of adding a new feature, like a road or a point or a hiking trail or a driveway, you want to make a change to an existing feature. You first just click on that feature. It'll bring up that identify window, and that's where you request either edits or a deletion if it needs to be deleted. So in this case, we have our, a point. This one has no house number in it right now. So if you know now what the house number is, you can go in and add that, or if you even have to move it a bit. So this does look like it's pretty much right on the structure. But if you did have to move it, once you hit the request edit, it gives you the option to move a vertex, and that's by clicking on it. So I hover over the point, hold my mouse down on that point, and then drag. So you want to keep holding the mouse down, and that'll let you move the location of the point. And if you want to undo it, it gives you that option too. Say you accidentally moved it and you didn't really mean to, you can just press the Z button to undo it. And then once you hit next, it brings up this informational bar, just where's it signed to. It's automatically, everything is sent to the state of Maine, to the ESCB. So you don't have to change, shouldn't have to change anything here. And you just have to put a description in. It does require description. So you could say, oh, moved point, updated address, any just basic description, which will be then included in the information that's sent to the state when they are processing these change requests. So you see here, it actually comes up with all the attributes, all the information that's in there. Anything that has these asterisks, like 2 of them, those are required. So if these are blank right now, it would come up with a red box and say you need to fill this in. Building floor and unit and location, those are all optional but can be filled in. If you add a new point, this building type would be blank, and it does require you to enter something. So you do have to go to this list and choose what type of building it is when you're adding a new point. Or if you have to change it, you can change that in here too. If this is instead of residential, maybe it's a commercial building. My name, so my user account is automatically added because I made an update with the date and the time that I did that work. Object ID is grayed out because you can't make any changes. But see, since this point doesn't have an address, and I know the driveway entrance is up here, I can choose to suggest an address. Click on that, and then you hover over the road. And based on the range that's in the road, it will choose to choose that address that would be the correct one based on that entrance right there. See, now I have an address number 60 in here, and I can click update. And it'll come up with a success message after it's done making this update. Just takes a second to go through that.
Jessica, we've got a question. When adding a new point, do you have to notify the post office, or is that the information, or is that information sent directly to the address management?
I would think it's not automatically sent, but maybe Maria will want to answer that question.
So really, these questions will be for John, but I do know the answer, and you do have to notify the post office separately.
Thanks, Maria. So this is just to get the data into the statewide data set, to get that database updated. Okay, so it says it successfully added this. Of course, the actual change request still needs to be applied by the state. If I refresh here, zoom in and out, it should come up with the point that I just, basically a change request that I just added. It's thinking yet. But I have a toolbars down here, or tables down here, submission history and work items. You'll only have a submission history. The work items is for someone that would be able to process those change requests and see more than just one. So want to see, like the state would need to see everyone's submissions. So if you click on this table, this submission history, it'll pop up. And when it's gray, that means it's active. See, it shows the one that I just added, this change request. And you see that little green dot that now showed up on top of the existing one. And that's my change request that I added. It'll shows the status right here. And it was automatically assigned to the state of Maine. But once they process your change request, if they don't have any questions at all, then the status would change to completed, and it's in the database then. We do have this feedback option up here. So let's say you put something in, you submit it, and then you realize, oh, that wasn't right. You can add a feedback point to that location, and it's just descriptive. It's not going to add any kind of data. It's just adding information to the state saying, you know what, I'm sorry, that was wrong. It's actually not, the address shouldn't be 60, it should be 58, or it should be moved. So that's where you would use feedback. But otherwise, you can use the request new feature or editing or requesting a deletion from the existing features. So if I hit view here, it'll pop up with the information that I just reviewed and submitted. And I'm going to click this X to get rid of this edit tool, deactivate it. Yeah, this was my description I added. It has my date and time stamp on it, and that it's a change request. My status is submitted. It won't be able to change this. This is just what you will be seeing when the state does process something. They can change it to pending or clarification needed, completed, or declined. And so if, let's say it's clarification needed, that's where you could also add a feedback point and say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I should have added the building type in here, or I needed to add more information about the point itself. And then these are the attributes. So if you added a new point, underlying information, the postal community, zip code, the street name, all gets added when you do a new point. Great. So I didn't make any changes, can't make any changes. So I just hit cancel. So that's my point change request. We've
got one question.
Yeah,
I believe you said that the submission history will not carry forward from the old systems. How do we see the results of recent submissions prior to changeover? So that would be actually a question for the ESCB, how they are planning on resolving those. Erica or Maria, do you know, or do you plan on just resolving the old?
Yeah, hi, this is Todd with the ESCB. The way that I understand it is that all records that were in change requests were resolved and closed out the end of the day this last Friday. So everything has been processed going forward.
Okay, very good.
Excellent. And then for the next question.
Yeah, sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I have them up here, the questions. So I think as an AO would probably not ever use declined, you wouldn't change. So that would be something that the CB would use. If for some reason there's not enough information maybe in there, my guess is that most likely it'll be more of needs clarification, and you're the one who's the addressing authority, so you're not going to be, your decisions on what addresses to give probably won't be declined.
Yeah, hi, this is Todd again, just to add a little bit to that, a little more clarification. You're kind of going to use this the same way you do in the same way you did in change requests. Basically, when you go in to contributor, you submit a few edits. You always want to make sure that you're coming back 2-3 days later and checking on the status of your edits. So you're looking for anything that might have been declined. Okay. And at this point in time, what we're going to do when we do decline something, we're going to need to reach out to you, even if it's an address edit, and we're going to need to let you know why we had to decline it. You'll then need to go back into contributor and submit a new record, because currently we do not have the ability to edit existing records.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it would be like a new change request or adding a feedback point with additional information in that same location.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, there will be emails sent to when that happens. So now I have a road selected. The shows the attribute window when I click on it, and it highlights the segment that's selected. You can click this button up here to dock it over onto the left-hand side if you'd like, or undock it, then it just comes up, or does by default here in the center. So it has range information, what type of road it is, the speed limits posted. So those are, things you can change to. Ranges, you can request changes to the ranges, to the names, to the road class, the speed limit. You see 1 of 4 down here. So there's underlying information here. And if you click through, it shows that this is the municipal parcel for that location that you clicked on, and that information. I was close enough to this other parcel that it's showing that second one too. And it's also showing the underlying municipality. So I want to go back to the road. So click through the arrows. And for this road, I want to request an edit. And I'm going to dock it so it gets out of the way of that road, doesn't cover my road up. So once I hit request edit, it's same as what it did with the address point. It comes up with a description saying, if you want to if you want to move a vertex that's existing, click on it and then drag it. C would complete the sketch, or Z would undo something. If you move a vertex and you didn't mean to move it, you can hit the Z button. Next also completes the requests. So in this case, I'm going to click on this one vertex here. So if you need to maybe redraw it because the new aerial imagery shows that the road isn't exactly where it was originally drawn, I'm going to do that. And if I actually don't want that to, I realize that wasn't right, I just hit the letter Z, and that one will go back. And I hit Z again, and the first change I made also went back. And then once I hit next, I can see, make an actual request for the attributes. So just like before, you do have to put in a description. It's automatically assigned to the state of Maine. Okay, the blue and the gray vertex. Let me get back to that here in a second and take a look. So this will show all the information for that road, and it'll allow you to choose, if something's not one way, or change the speed limit on it, or if you know that the address ranges weren't right, those are things you can change to, or the road name can be changed. And then you hit update, and it'll, even though in this case, I really didn't make any changes because I reverted all my vertex changes, but either way, it says change request has been submitted, and then it shows up down here in my window, my table grid. Okay, so I'll select this road again, request and edit, and get these vertices to show up. I believe they are just the different types, whether they have more information in them or just small vertices that were added to add to the curve. So let me see if this one changes. Okay, so the gray ones I can't move. So the blue ones are the real vertex that you can actually make a change with. And as you see, it actually did grab, even though I grabbed the blue one, it's making that change between these two. And I can find out more information too on what the purpose is, why they made them this way. So I don't want to make this change, so I can hit the back button and say, yep, let's exit out of here. Or if you did make a change, went through the process of actually submitting it, and you realized you didn't want to do that, this is where you can click on feedback. You can just click anywhere on the map to add a point, and it'll come up with a instructional window. It's thinking right now yet. Describe the change, and then you can just in that feedback point describe saying, no, you know what, please disregard this change request. You didn't need to do anything with this one. I think it's, I apologize, I think it's stuck right now. I might have asked it to do too many things at once. Christy, I think this is someone we have to maybe check out after. Oh, it's just redrawing. It's going slower than it should. To see why it's not, why it's not working the way it should be. But the purpose of the feedback is if you have additional information that isn't specific to adding a new point or editing a point or editing a road or a driveway at all. When you click on request new feature, though, it gives you all the options of what type of features you can request. So you can add hydrants and hiking trails, driveways, roads, and addresses. And I see there's another question too. How do you add additional vertices? I'm gonna click out of here. This road. I'll try one of the other roads here. So once the information for it comes up, then I can do that request, choose the request edit option again. I'm going to refresh my screen because it's not doing the things that it should be doing right now. But this is where maybe a bookmark is a good option so that just in case it doesn't go back to the exact location you were at, you could click on a bookmark. Okay, so here we go. I think, I'm not sure if there is a way to add a vertex. I just moved the whole road, so I'm going to hit the Z button so it goes back. But Christy, can you take a note that we'll check and we can do a follow-up on how you add a vertex since it's not showing up as an option for me right now?
Yeah, hi, this is Todd again. The way that you add a vertex, I can't remember which color, but you click on either the blue or the green, and or the blue or the gray, and it'll add a vertex on either side of it.
Oh, just by clicking on once.
Yep.
Okay, so I was clicking on the gray ones.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember if it was the blue or the gray, but if you click on it, it'll add vertices to either side. There.
I think that, yeah, it just did. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I clicked on the gray one,
Okay,
it
great.
made that one blue and added to two gray ones, it looks like. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. All right. Yeah, so then if I click next, it'll save that information. I always have to put in a description. And then this is if you have any updates that need to be made. And if you created a brand new road and it doesn't have any information in it yet, such as the municipality or the zip code, that you can hit the get attributes button and whatever's configured underneath and those polygons, it can add that information in. Any other questions on these, or do you want me to go through any other steps?
Do any of the AOs have any questions on how to edit a road? Utilizing the tools and the editing the vertices and all that? Is everybody set on that?
I just think it'll take us a couple of attempts to get it right.
So whenever you hit cancel, it says, it asks you first, are you sure you want to do that? And when it says deleting your work, just know that it's just that one, the feature that you were just working on. And that way, if you hit yes, exit, it won't show up in your submission history over here. And you can scroll through on the bottom, it just shows a couple of them to see the past information that you've added. So it's just your edits. And then you can check on the status that way too, what was completed and or what's maybe still pending or needs more clarification. You're also able to, well, this button here does refresh, but you're also able to export the whole list at the very on the table here on the right-hand side. This will export your list of change requests into a CSV file if you ever wanted to get a full list of how many you've done. And then that's how you click off of that and remove it from your window from review. And now that I've refreshed, I can try this again with the feedback. There we go. This time it added one. I think it would just needed to refresh the window before. So if you have had a new address you added or something just is incorrect, you're seeing an incorrect boundary, for example, there's no boundary change request, you could add a feedback point and saying, hey, I know this boundary needs to be moved. Have a description in there. And it'll just add that feedback point. So it's different from a change request in that it can't automatically be applied to any data. It's just giving information to the state.
Jessica, we've got a couple questions. Can we add a coordinate? Can we add a coordinate to get a point on the map? Can you enter the format required?
Yeah, I believe in the search you can. So it wouldn't add the point automatically, it would just find the location for you that you want, but it would just be a single coordinate. So I see that one response from Todd. There's not currently a way to add shape files. It'd have to be emailed to the ESCB, but that is something that made a request to our product team to make that an option. So if you're collecting information out the field, maybe have numerous points and have the coordinates for them, or even roads, then those in the future, those would be an option to add rather than you manually entering them. And looking back at other questions. I'll have to check on what the format required is for the coordinate. So if you wanted to add single ones, you'd have to search for that location. That's how that would work. I'll take these coordinates that Alan had entered, and just, we can check it out and see what, if it brings us to the right location. That where you expected it to go? Eight, good. I would think so, since we're actually in, yeah, in the data yet. We didn't move to some random location in the world. So yeah, so that is an option, but it's just gonna be one by one until we have the option to import shapefiles. Anything you'd like me to go back to? Then you'll see the URL here is at the top. I'm gonna put that into our chat, so you have that available. And also wanted to show you that when you first go to this, you might have noticed when I was on the splash screen for logging in, it had a different URL. So once you go to it, it changes some security purposes. So you don't want to save that one as a favorite. You can either log in and save it at that point, or you can go and you can hit save, but then go into wherever you saved it and edit that one. So if I go here and then edit, it allows me to change the URL that's saved and also, give it the name that I desire, so that I know which one, which contributor version I'm going to, for example, or however you want to name it. So just so you know, sometimes when you first just get to the log on screen, hit the save as a favorite, it will save whatever that URL is that's in there, and then that won't work for you to log in. Yeah, I see the question here. Does the system email you when the change request has been approved or needs additional info? It does not currently send emails out, but the ESCB will send you an email if there are any questions, or you'd have to go look back to every few days, like you have been with Geolink server change requests, and just double check that they've been approved. That is also something that's in our backlog on the product side to automate, to set up emails. Christy, is there anything else you'd like to add or want me to go back to?
I think, can you add another new home address, please? That was a request.
Okay. Looks like this one doesn't have one. So I'm going to request a new feature. In this case, I want it to be next gen address point. And now I can click on the center of the house on the imagery to add that point. It automatically gets assigned to Maine. I have to add a description, and once I click next in here, it comes up with all of the attributes. And at this point, it's just my user and the date and time that it was entered. Because, and as you see here, there's red box around the road name that needs to be entered before it even lets you do anything. And you can click the suggest address so that you can hover over the road in that location where the access is, and then the road ranges, or roads are ranged based on the addressing scheme, and it'll come up with the appropriate address. So make sure that there aren't any other ones with that same house number nearby. And see, then put Davis Road in there. I can add building floor and unit information if that's relevant here. Do have to add a building type, otherwise it won't let you hit save. So single family home, and then it allows me to add that. If there's anything missing in those fields that with like the red box, but it needs that information. It won't let you hit add. That add button won't be activated. So now my submission history here's that point I just added. And if I want to look at the information or maybe make, just see what was entered in there, zoom back to that location, I hit the view, it zooms in close, and it sees, if you click on the attributes, you can see it gave it that address number and that road name and the building type, single family. So then when the state processes these, they can take a look at it and just hit accept, and that data will automatically go into the statewide data set. So once it's processed and the updates are shown in here, then next time you'll see that it's the status is completed and your point's actually present in the data. Oh, well, you see that hover over points to find out the address number. So that should be, displayed. That's part of the label once the address is officially added, that completion. Other than that, you do have to click on the feature, either the road, point, driveway, whatever. Click on one of the existing ones. And then that's how you get the information for that location. I want to say adding a new road too. Yep, I can walk through that too. I know this isn't real, so I'll just put a road in here. Say that's or a driveway. Maybe a driveway makes sense in this case. So I clicked on the driveways option. And then every time I click, it'll add a vertex. And when I double click, it's done. And it pops up with any information you could put in about a driveway in this case. If you want to, add the town information or other information, but that'll be in there. And then you click the add button, or if like, oh, I don't want that after all, you can click exit. Okay, I see the question about the username and password. So if you click on that URL I pasted into the chat and then click forgot password and enter your email address, you should receive an email. And then that's how you can set up your initial password. If you don't, you may need to check your junk or spam folder too, but if you don't receive an email, please reach out to the state and they'll work with us to double check and make sure your account's set up correctly. And sometimes it's just that you need to work with IT to allow that email to come through, since it's like, canned email, not from a person. I see Jackie said, would you be able to demo adding a road? Is the driveway okay, or should I go and add a road as well? Would that be? I can go through that process too, if that would be helpful. Okay, driveway is okay. All right, good. And then how close is the suggest address number going to be with regard to a town's increment? That depends on what's in the road. So if the roads are set up, and they should be, I would think for the most part, if they aren't, then that's a reason to request a change or an edit. Then it uses exactly that information. So if your road is a mile long, you have 1,000 addresses. If you're halfway down there, it should be around the 500 mark. So if it's 1,000 to 1,999, the one in the center should be 499, 500. And then just clarifying, if the image has not been updated, but we need to add an address, we would just do it the old-fashioned way, measuring in the field. Is that the way it's always been done with GeoLink's server and change requests too?
Yeah, this is Todd again.
Okay.
So yeah, you're going to do it the same way you did in change requests. If you can't see the new house, the new structure, the new road or driveway, whatever it may be in the aerial imagery, then you're going to go out there and measure with a wheel, get that information and bring it back and get it in there as best you can. When they update the imagery in the future, if we need to move something, we can at that point in time.
Thank you. Great. Anything else I should go over again, or do you? Yeah, that's right. Currently, there isn't a measurement tool, but that is on our PROC team's high priority list. So that's expected to be here or available pretty soon. I think early 2024. Yep, that's correct. So you said, how do you create the new account? You just hit the forgot password, because we've set up your accounts and we set it up with some default password. So if you hit the forgot password, it sends you an email with a link that you click on to set up your new password. Okay, then there's a comment about the imagery.
Okay,
Okay.
I want to correct something you said earlier. So the Geo Library Board flies different areas every year. And then when we get that imagery back, then we update that area of the map. But generally, it has historically been once every 5 years that your area was flown, unless your town has bought into the program and perhaps is doing it more frequently. The unorganized territories might be the exception to that schedule. And currently, there is no product available, I don't believe, from the Geo Library Board for the coming flying season. So we could have a little hole, and not hole, but a little change to that once every 5-year rule.
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, I must have misunderstood John yesterday when he said yearly.
Yeah, he updates anything new he has yearly. So we get that released from the Maine Geo Library Board once a year, and that's when he would share it with Geocom and get it put into this product.
And that's something that will get reconfigured, I think, pretty quickly here, so that it would be your imagery rather than what we have in here right now. And it looks like there's another question for you, Maria, probably.
If I don't have the website right here, but if you go to the State of Maine website and then just search for the Geo Library, it tells you what the latest schedule was for for ortho imagery.
Well, I appreciate everyone's time, attention, and all the questions. Thank you very much. Like Christy said, we recorded this and we'll share this too. But if you do have any questions, of course, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you all for joining. I'm sure as you use the product, you will have a few questions, and the team is available. The ESCB team is available to you, and please give us a ring. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jessica, can you put the URL in the chat, please?
Yep, it's further up, but I'll put it in here again.
Great, thank you.
Here it is again. All right. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.